Alec Baldwin shooting on set. Now, I want to make this clear on the front end. This was an accidental shooting from all we can tell. There's video of there are images of Baldwin after he had vomited on the side on set after he had shot the woman. My heart breaks for him as far as that goes. It would be horrible to go on through life knowing you had accidentally taken another life. However, Scripture says if you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. And Baldwin has said some unbelievably horrible things about gun owners and the pro-Second Amendment crowd. And now some of those things are coming back to haunt him. And this story is a fantastic example of the myopia of the left. They are convinced. They look at something like COVID. They say it is a dire threat. It's going to kill everyone. Oh my gosh. We all have to be super aware of what's going on with COVID and sacrifice and do all that's possible to stop COVID when COVID's never going to be stopped. We can't stop the flu. I don't think we're going to be able to stop COVID. So they push on that, but then they don't do simple things, take personal responsibility for things that could actually save lives. I want to talk super quickly about a post Baldwin made. I can't remember if it's on TikTok or it was TikTok. Okay. And he made it looks like from the location in New Mexico. And this was before he shot the woman. And he starts talking about COVID. And he says, in my opinion, this is most certainly a war against this vaccine. This is a war. And when we had a war in this country, like World War II is the ultimate example. You have to sacrifice to fight the war. Simple things, sugar, rubber, you name it. The American people had to sacrifice in an effort to win the war. Now, he's not completely wrong about that. We did have to sacrifice. The problem is that World War II was winnable. As I saw someone comment on that post later, this is more like Vietnam, a case of the American government saying, oh, yes, we can win this war when it will actually never be over. And that's essentially what Vietnam ended up being. But this was interesting to me when I saw it, because essentially you have Baldwin telling the rest of the country, you've got to sacrifice, you've got to lay down your own desires, and you've got to do this for the collective good. But it's so interesting that there was an unbelievably simple thing Baldwin could have done just after this that totally would have saved a life. He was busy lecturing the rest of us on how we can save lives when it's not clear that most of the guidance given actually saves that many lives. He was lecturing all of us about that when all he had to do was take the gun when he was handed it, open the slide, look down there, or I think it was actually a revolver, drop the cylinder out, look, and see if it was empty or not. And he didn't do it. Best we can tell, he didn't do it. If he did do it, then he's really stupid. And it just reminded me of what the left does so often. They are focused on the wrong thing, and they're focused on the wrong people. They are focused on telling the American people how to fight a virus that we're never going to beat. They could save lives instantly. How could they do that? Well, they could change bail reform in New York City. They just let people out willy-nilly. We've seen how many murders have we seen? They could stop killing babies. That would be a really easy one. But that accepted. They could stop letting people out right after they've been arrested for violent crimes. Then we would see fewer rapes. We would see fewer murders. They could get rid of sanctuary cities. We've seen how many crimes committed by aliens who are shielded by sanctuary cities. They could change policing practices in Chicago. There's no telling how many people, and that's almost all minorities whose lives they could save. Mm-hmm. But no, they're not doing that. What are they talking about 24/7? They're talking about COVID. We see deaths are dropping yet again. While, strangely enough, you have to get vaccinated more and more, it seems. Yeah. You see Biden out talking about COVID, then walking around, shaking people's hands, hugging people without masks on. So it just all registered to me as like complete hypocrisy on the part of the left. Is it weird that Baldwin is out there preaching to everybody who's watching us saying, you got to sacrifice, and then Baldwin doesn't even take the time to check the gun to see if it's loaded?
Well, I think...
Am I just expecting too much?
Well, I think it comes from the realization that most of these people have a silver spoon in their mouth. It's kind of like, I don't even know. If you hand Baldwin a gun, I don't even think he would even think to check it, because he's literally having everything handed to him. It's rules for thee, not for me. When you're used to consistently having things handed to you, you know, as a A-list celebrity going through this world pandemic and living life kind of probably the same way you always have, there's not really a reason to think critically about the actions you're taking or the steps you're taking. And so I think that it would be almost unfair a little bit to expect that on him. But I will say it's completely ridiculous with all the stuff we're seeing, how many people saw the red flags, the fact that the cast left the set that day, or certain cast members.
That's huge.
You know, there's a lot of people in this chain who should have been responsible, the producers, the director. And so I don't think we can just say that he should have checked it, because probably that wasn't his job. They had the armorer that was inexperienced. Someone hired her. Who was it? And so I think there is responsibility, but I'm not really sure if it's going to be 100% to fall on Baldwin.
Grant, you wrote the piece we ran covering this yesterday. So you've looked at it a lot. As you kind of walked away from that piece, having listened to what Baldwin said, did you feel like, what did you feel like when you walked away from that piece?
Well, it was interesting because we had a pretty long discussion in the newsroom about whether we were going to run the piece, because there were some felt that maybe it wasn't fair to say, okay, he's made this claim about COVID that's unrelated to the fact that he accidentally shot someone. My argument was, and this is what I wrote in the piece.
But that's not the point we're making. Yeah.
What I wrote in the piece and the way that I kind of angled it is that, yes, it's separate. The fact that he made that speech isn't the reason that he accidentally shot someone, but it's a bigger picture thing to me. It's that the left, like you said, is so focused on like this COVID thing, and I don't know why at this point. Like the only thing that I can guess is that it's because of control, it's because of power.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just so focused on it, and like you said, there's no like evidence to say if you all get vaccinated, then we're going to save so many lives. They claim that evidence is out there, and probably the vaccine saves a good amount of lives.
Yeah, I think it does.
It doesn't save all lives. It's not going to stop the pandemic. He said it's going to end the war. It's not going to do that.
Yeah, and we don't know all the repercussions yet either. That's and I mean, we ran a piece. You put the piece together yesterday with the FDA advisory committee talking about whether or not we should give it to kids. And one of the people on the committee said, "Look, let's just face facts. We're not going to know the side effects till we release it."